Today, the Department of Defense announced the downing of an Air Force fighter plane yesterday over North Vietnam by a Soviet-made SA-2 surface-to-air missile, referred to as a SAM by the military. This is the first time an SA-2 has been employed in the Vietnam War, shooting down an F-4C like the one shown here. The status of the two-man crew is not known at this time and are being listed as missing in action. This is only the third time a SAM has been successfully employed. The first and best-known use of the missile was the one used to shoot down Francis Gary Powers' U-2 in 1960. 2 years later, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, Major Rudolph Anderson Jr. was shot down and killed when his U-2 was struck down by a SAM. When asked what kind of response could be expected from the United States, the Defense Department spokesman stated that all options were being studied and weighed against the risk of further escalation of the war. In other news, in the UK, Shadow Chancellor...
Just past noon on the 27th of July, 1965, flights of F-105Ds, thuds as they were affectionately called by their crews, started engines at Karat Royal Thai Air Force Base in Thailand. This large massing of 105s to attack two surface-to-air missile sites, known as SAMs, was a retaliation for North Vietnam's first SAM shoot-down of the war, an F-4C, 3 days earlier. Prior to this mission, all SAM sites had been off limits under the Lyndon Johnson administration's overly restrictive rules of engagement. After completing their after-start checks, they began taxiing to Marshall in the arming area at the end of the runway for their scheduled takeoff times. The 357th Tactical Fighter Squadron, a Tactical Air Command unit, was deployed to Karat on temporary duty from McConnell Air Force Base, Kansas. The 12th Tactical Fighter Squadron, a Pacific Air Command Air Forces unit, was also at Karat on temporary duty from Kadena Air Base, Okinawa. Five minutes later, 100 miles to the west, a similar scenario was being played out at Tak Lee Royal Thai Air Force Base, Thailand, with another 24 thuds. At Tak Lee, the 563rd was also a deployed squadron on temporary duty from McConnell Air Force Base, Kansas. Anxiety was higher than normal among the crews, as this was the first counter-SAM mission in the history of aerial combat. They had been up since early pre-dawn, originally scheduled for morning attacks on all known SAM sites. But these missions were scrubbed at the last minute and replaced with a new order to strike only the two newest sites suspected of shooting down the F-4. The 80th Headhunters was the deployed Pacific Air Command Squadron of Tak Lee on temporary duty from Yokota Air Base, Japan. In the arming area at the end of the runway, maintenance crews worked under hot and noisy conditions, checking the airplanes one final time. While armorers removed the safety pins from the loaded munitions. The base chaplain walked the line and gave spiritual support as each pilot was shown the removed safety streamers, indicating his plane was ready. At 12:50, prepper flight from the 357th Tactical Fighter Squadron at Karat was the first flight to take off.
Karat Tower, Pepper, flight of 4, number 1 for takeoff.
Roger, Pepper, Karat Tower, winds 240 at 10 with occasional gusts of 15. Cleared for takeoff.
Roger, Pepper flight, cleared for takeoff.
The Spring High mission required air refueling support. The flights rendezvoused with assigned KC-135 tankers orbiting at the Thai-Laotian border to top off their fuel tanks for the 450-plus mile trip to their targets. While waiting his turn on the tanker, Cedar 3 from the 12th Tactical Fighter Squadron experienced an air turbine motor failure and had to abort the mission.
Cedar 3 is aborting. ATM failure. 4, stay with the flight. I'll take it home myself.
This abort, along with the 357th Tactical Fighter Squadron's Willow lead ground abort, reduced Karat's strike package to 22 aircraft. The plan called for the Karat force to approach SAM Site 6 from the south, while the Talkley force would proceed up to the Red River and fly down the Red River Valley and attack SAM Site 7 from the northwest. The two SAM sites, separated by less than 3 miles, presented high potential for mid-air collisions because of the two converging flight paths of the attackers. Special emphasis was placed during briefings by the flight leads on how they would avoid this danger. With 2.5 to 3 minutes separation between flights, the aircraft within each of the two forces were spread over 100 miles as they ingressed over Laos at 17,000 feet. Real-time coded broadcast warnings of SAM radar status were provided by an RB-66C. The first coded warning, "Blue bells are singing," indicating the SAM radars were active, was broadcast while the 105s were strung out from the tankers, the lead flights reaching the North Vietnamese border. The calls continued alternating between singing and silent as the flights proceeded on their mission. By 1355, Healy from the 563rd Tactical Fighter Squadron and the first of the Talkley flights was approaching their turning point at the Red River. As they started their turn, they began receiving heavy flak. Forcing the flight to descend and fly down the Red River Valley below their planned 100-foot altitude. For the next 5 minutes, the flight made a high-speed dash down the Red River Valley, kicking up rooster tails as they flew low over the rice paddies towards SAM Site 7. Number 4 in the flight was an 80th Tactical Fighter Squadron bird, which filled in as a spare at the last minute for a 563rd drawn aboard.
Chị, máy bay tới. Bà con ơi, máy bay tới. Bà con ơi, máy bay tới.
The first distress call was heard over mission frequency as Ramber Flight started its descent over Laos, approaching the North Vietnamese border.
Healy 2 is hit. Roger, stay with it. You gotta get over the next hill. We got smoke in the cockpit. Keep it going. You gotta get over the next ridge.
Grade 4, go to the tanker. I'll stay here at camp.
Roger, watch out for these leads. Down there.
Healy Lead orbited over 2 and made multiple passes for 30 minutes where he went down. Unfortunately, he was never seen again after going into the river and was presumed to have drowned. For the next 12 minutes, SAM Site 7 was almost under continuous attack, with CBU-2s and napalm in succeeding 5 flights.
Anybody see us shoot?
The extremely low high-speed dash towards the target makes navigation and target acquisition extraordinarily difficult. Valiant Lee acquired the target at the last minute and realizes he is too far right of the barracks and is instead lined up with a SAM site.
Damn, lined up on the SAM site. Don't make another pass.
Valiant 4, in frustration and desperate to hit the enemy, fires his Vulcan cannon, spraying 20mm rounds towards a distant gun emplacement as the flight breaks to the right. In Rambler, we descended and leveled off at 100 feet as we crossed into North Vietnam and headed for the Red River. Approaching the 120-degree turn for our dash towards the target, I lagged my flight to make room for the turn into me. The turn got too steep. I couldn't keep the flight in sight during the turn, but nonetheless, the flight came out of the turn in a good spread formation and descended to less than 50 feet. Lead continued to descend, forcing us to stack high on him to avoid running into the ground. Rambler lead climbs to 50 feet and rocks us wings, signaling the flight into fingertip formation as they approach the confluence of the Red and Black Rivers, the last prominent checkpoint just short of the target. The flight releases on his command.
Rambler, ready, 3, 2, 1, sail. We have lead.
Corvette is the last Talkley flight and is supposed to strike Site 7 barracks. They approach their target at near 600 knots and have to extend their speed brakes to reduce their speed to 500 for their napalm release.
Let's get the hell out of here.
Once out of the target area, the flights climb to altitude. The attack on SAM Site 7 ends with a strike by Corvette flight, but nearby SAM Site 6 is still under attack. Its missile launch area has been hit by Karat's first 3 flights. And Cedar is the first flight to attack the site's barracks. Cedar is the first flight to attack the site's barracks. Cedar 2 is hit just prior to reaching the target, but is still able to release his weapon. Before crashing. Dogwood and Chestnut are the last remaining Karat flights. They're tasked as cleanup flights and are to strike whatever has survived the previous attacks. Leading the approach to SAM Site 6, Dogwood is met with a heavy barrage of AAA and 2 is hit while attempting to avoid the bursting flak.
Damn, they just self-opened.
Trailing a good 150 feet behind you. Get out! Get out! Negative, it's still flying. Better clean off the wing, Frank. I've lost the ATM, but I've got standby instruments. I'm heading for the bridge straight ahead. Frank, you better get out. It's really burning. I've got to go. Ada losing control. It's not responding.
Frank, you gotta go. Fuel's getting low. We've been ordered out of the area. We're gonna get you a chopper.
Dogwood 2 avoids busloads of militia searching for him and is saved in a precarious rescue after 3 hours on the ground.
Canasta, right off your wingtip now.
Canasta flight, a pair of Navy A-1 Spads, look at Kulu and fly in search of a rescue helicopter. Kulu's rescue is the first by a CH-3 Jolly Green Giant, the first of its type that's just arrived in theater. 2 hours and 35 minutes after taking off, Rambler Flight returns to Talk Lady. Operation Spring High was a costly, fatal mission with last-minute changes, wrong tactics, improper ordnance, and a high loss of aircraft and airmen. The North Vietnamese, anticipating a retaliatory attack, vacated the missiles and launchers at the 2 new SAM sites involved in the first SAM shootdown of the war. He erected fake missiles and brought in more guns to turn the sites into flak traps. Of the 46 F-105s that attacked the 2 SAM sites, 6 aircraft were lost. Healy 2 was the first KIA casualty of the mission. During its attack on SAM Site 6, Pepper 2 suffered heavy battle damage, but was still able to fly out of the target area. With Pepper lead escorting, the 2 headed for the nearest U.S. base, which is located at Udorn, Royal Thai Air Force Base, Thailand. Pepper lead flies a safety chase formation in Pepper 2, allowing him to keep a close eye on the plane's condition. Approaching Udorn, the 2 planes suffer a mid-air collision. Neither pilot survived the collision, and both are listed as being killed in action. Hudson 2 and Cedar 2 were not seen to bail out and were initially listed as MIA. Fortunately, they survived the war and were repatriated after being held as prisoners of war 7.5 years. Dogwood 2 was the only pilot shot down and rescued. It was his first day as a captain.